Welcome in, Buff Nation, to another edition of Shoulder to Shoulder Colorado Live on the Voice of College Football Network. Appreciate you all tapping in with me on this beautiful Monday. Happy Martin Luther King Day. It's a little bit snowy outside, so wanted to hop on. Just me today, your host Miles on X at Miles High Buffs. Talk a little Colorado transfer portal news, give you a little bit of a comparison, run the behind the scenes numbers, go position by position, just evaluate it, see how the team did. And then I want to get your guys' thoughts. Just follow along, leave a comment. Let me know how you feel each position group is doing in terms of the guys that are coming in and some of the guys that are going out. If it got better, if it got worse, and then let me know your thoughts. As always, do subscribe, like, comment, share, anything that you do to make sure that other people, want to watch these types of videos. It helps with the platform and it helps us bring more content to you. It's not an easy job to track all this information down. So anything you're willing to do, more than happy and more than appreciative. We will dive in a little bit today to each position group. We'll talk about some of the measurables, the guys coming in, the PFF grades, and some of the rankings by the various websites. We're going to start on the offensive side with the quarterback. We'll work our way down, and then we'll move over to the defensive side of the ball, and we'll go from there. So with that, going to go ahead and jump right in. First position group that I want to talk about today is the quarterbacks. A little bit of a non-need, I would say, overall for Colorado in the transfer portal this year. Just, having Juju Lewis, 5-star phenom quarterback. You don't need to go out and find another guy to compete with him at a high level. I think the Buffs have settled on having Juju be their primary quarterback for the future. But with the news of Ryan Staub, entering the portal, there was a little bit of an emphasis to find a true backup quarterback who can play at a high level in the P4. And just make sure that you have that guy that can take that spot snap if something goes wrong with the helmet or maybe Juju jams his finger again. So looking at the actual position groups here, we have on the way out Ryan Staub, Boulder legend, 6'1", 200 pounds. The parentheses that you're seeing here, the left side is their 247 ranking, and then the right side is their on 3 ranking. So rated as a 86 by both websites. I would say 86 is right above your above average starter, rough, starter backup hybrid is probably where that ranking would put. I think 85 is probably the median there. And then a little bit under the radar, but walk-on QB Colton Allen, I believe he's a senior, 6'3", 210, unranked by 247, but at 81 overall by on 3, is also heading out the door. So we wish him the best of luck as well. Hope he finds a spot that gives him the opportunity to play significant minutes. But the Buffs did bring in a quarterback from Utah, 6 foot, 210, Isaac Wilson, rated as a 86 overall by 247 and an 87 by on 3. So my initial analysis here is that it's a pretty even swap. Ryan Staub played some spot minutes, had a couple of spot starts for the Buffs. Really good locker room guy, a Boulder favorite, as I mentioned, but overall projects to be a backup, maybe could be a starter on a couple of teams. He is heading to Tennessee, so we'll see if he's able to compete for the starting role there with George McIntyre, and maybe they get their quarterback from last season back in Joey Aguilar. Isaac Wilson, on the other hand, if Buff fans remember, was the only quarterback to throw a touchdown over Travis Hunter in that blowout win that we had against Utah in 2024. Played sparingly for Utah in 2025. We'll get into that when we hit the numbers side of things. But also just a good locker room guy. He's got some P4 experience. So a pretty even swap here from my perspective. If you disagree, if you think that Isaac Wilson is going to be competing for that starting job, or maybe we really lost a big presence in Ryan Staub, then go ahead and leave it in the comment section below. Tell me your thoughts. And as I'm going through this, would love for you guys to just, open up that comment section and just type out what you think. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down on each position group so that you're following along, and just let me know what you think. It's super helpful for this type of videos. But what I'm going to do now is we're going to transition over to the PFF side of things. Let me go ahead and share my screen, take a look at how these guys graded out. So first guy first. We got first guy first. Don't know what that means, but we got Isaac Wilson here again, played in spot minutes for Utah last season. Don't mind it says he's at CU, but these are his grades from when he was at Utah. Played against Colorado in the Miles High Buff game that I'm now being known for. Only played 12 snaps. It's not a great look when your backup quarterback only plays against one team, and that's your team, but didn't grade overall very well. It's pretty tough for quarterbacks, especially specifically backup quarterbacks, to grade very well because usually they just don't have a lot of solid reps. They're not really going in there to really make a play. They're more just kind of holding it down unless they're needed. But if you look at that 2024 season where he had significantly more snaps, graded out okay, pretty solid for a backup quarterback, roughly a 50 overall, 51.3 in passing grade, and then a roughly 50 overall as a runner. Just a solid P4 backup, and brings some experience to that quarterback room and just a good presence overall. But looking now at new Tennessee quarterback and former Buff Ryan Staub, similar measurables as we mentioned, played in 5 games this season as a Buff, started in 1 at Houston, which didn't go all that well for him. Played super well against Delaware, as we all remember that big game where he had a couple of deep passes to Sincere Brown down the sideline. Graded out super well there, didn't play all that well against Houston, ended up getting benched again, and then comes back against Utah, scores a touchdown. That's where that infamous Miles High Buffs video came from. So thank you, Ryan, for that, because that got me a lot of followers. But ultimately, rounds out the season, plays a little bit at Arizona or against Arizona, and then against Kansas State as well. He took a couple of snaps when I believe Caden Salter's helmet had an issue. But graded out at a 45.7 overall, 46.7 as a passer, and 54.6 as a runner. Surprisingly, had some pretty good plays on the ground. And we wish him the best when he's in Tennessee. In his prior 2 seasons at CU, didn't play too much. Had to start, I remember, against, I believe, Utah. Maybe I'm remembering that incorrectly. At the end of the season when Shedeur went down with his back injury. It was not at Utah, but he played against, if you remember what game that was, leave it in the comments for me. I'm drawing a blank here, but we'll go ahead and move on to the next position group. Just wanted to make sure we cover the quarterbacks there to start. Let me know what you think. Did the Buffs get better in the quarterback room, or are we taking a step back in terms of the backup position for Juju? Next position I want to cover here is the running backs room. So a little bit of an interesting switch going on here, right? So on the way out, we have a guy that was brought in from Ohio State, wanted to be that true running back 1. Dallin Hayden, 5'10", 205, ranking as a 86 per 247 and an 87 by On3. Never really got the opportunity to be a full RB1 here, kind of had been, jumped up the depth chart, then went back down and never really got some consistent carries. So heading over to Memphis with Corey Phillips, which is super great to see. I'm hoping that he gets that chance to really show what he's capable of. A late entry to the portal as well is Simeon Price. We'll talk about that on the next live show. I think is coming Wednesday, but we'll put out an announcement on that soon. 6 foot 215, not ranked by 247, but an 86 by On3. And then Ronald Coleman, walk on, technically a wide receiver, but considering he only took a snap at running back, as Buffs fans will remember, I'm putting him in the running back section. Not ranked by either platform, but we wish Ron the best, and I'm hoping that he gets an opportunity on maybe a lower stage to really prove what he's capable of. On the flip side, Buffs brought in 2 Sac State running backs pretty early in the cycle. Damian Henderson II, 6'2", 210, great size for a running back. Ranked as a 86 overall by both platforms. And then I think it's Jaquale Smith, 5'11", 171, 85 by 247, 86 by On3. And then a really late addition to the Buffs roster, somewhat of a surprising one as well. Alabama running back Richard Young, 5'11", 212, 86 overall by 247 and 87 by On3. So Buffs bring in 3 experienced backs, which is super great. We lose 2 in Dallin Hayden and Simeon Price. Still waiting to see where Price is going to end up, but Hayden obviously going for an opportunity to really get that bell cow back type of production. But overall, a pretty good swap, I would say. If you look at just the rankings and some of the the guys that they're bringing in from Sac State who know the offense and know what's expected from the running backs there. If we pull up the grades now, let me go ahead and share those as well. I'm going to go find, we'll do on the outs first. So Dallin Hayden here first, obviously, like I said, heading over to Memphis. If you scroll down, he played in a good amount of games for CU this year, mostly as a rotation guy, as a backup. As you can see, some variation in the overall snap count. So didn't play much at the beginning of the season. DeKalen Taylor was getting a bulk of the carries, and then some Simeon Price in there as well. When Simeon goes down, DeKalen goes down, he gets some increased playing time. Pretty consistent overall, 66.1 overall on offense. Doesn't grade out too well at a 51.8 as a pass threat, but 70.0 as a runner and 60.3 as a run blocker as well. So didn't do well in the pass blocking except for kind of later in the season when he had a little bit more of a direct opportunity in some of those plays. And then his prior seasons as well, looking here, graded super well as a freshman at Ohio State, even better, better in a little bit less action in some areas in his sophomore season, and then transfers over to Colorado, gets some okay production. So I'm trying to see here behind my microphone, so if you see my head kind of jumping around, but I think he really wants a chance to show, getting a bulk of the carries, what he's made of, and didn't just really didn't click the way I think he hoped when he was here at Colorado. But moving down the list on the departures, we've got Simeon Price. Started his season at Mississippi State, did not play a whole bunch. Graded pretty average, a little bit above average over his 3 seasons there, and then goes to Coastal Carolina, plays a little bit, grades out super well in his pass block, and then comes to Colorado, gets hurt, unfortunately, but was having a really good start to the season before that. Was at a 69.4 overall. If I remember correctly, he had the highest yards per rush for Colorado's running backs. I think he was just over 6 yards a rush. Graded really well as a runner, 73.9. Didn't do as well as a blocker in either capacity, but pretty average as a pass threat as well. So again, rotational minutes. I'm hoping that he gets an opportunity somewhere to just round out his college career, getting a bulk of the carries and showing what he's really made of. I could see him going down a level and just really being a true threat if he's healthy. And then Ronald Coleman, I feel kind of bad showing this, but unfortunately had just the 4 plays. He is listed as a wide receiver, but got his 1 carry in the Arizona State game that most fans remember there. I'm hoping that he gets a chance to kind of wipe this off his slate and go prove his value potentially at a lower level for Ron Coleman. So wishing him well. On the inverse side, we've got coming in to the Buffs, Richard Young, 5'11", 212, as we talked about. Played in 5 games for Alabama this season, graded at a 64.5 overall. Really good run blocking grades. Didn't have too many snaps there, only 4, but 78.3 in his limited run blocking action. As a runner, 63.8, and then as a pass threat, 56.2. In his prior seasons at Alabama, pretty similar. Couple limited production overall, but a couple of areas like the pass block here and the run block grade as well that graded out pretty well. So big body could be a helpful addition in the go-go, just being that, one of the backs on the field in a 2-back set. So we'll see how he gets slotted in, but was a really high value guy coming out of high school. So one of the things that we had talked about was getting somebody with maybe a little bit more upside. So we'll see what he can do, outside of the SEC in the Big 12 in the go-go offense. That's Richard Young. Moving down the list as well, we've got Damian Henderson, 6'2", 210. Looking at his last season at Sac State, played in a good amount of games, had 1 start, but was also just a rotational back for them as well. 178 snaps, 73.4 overall. So graded really well on offense, 76.3 as a pass threat, blocking as a passer or as a pass blocker was pretty good. And then 72.3 as a runner as well. So overall, pretty good grades for being at Sac State. We'll see how they translate over to Colorado, but a guy that knows the system and played super well in some specific games, Central Arkansas, and then Idaho as well. So we'll see how it translates. We'll see how he plays in the Big 12, but looking at his prior seasons as well, was at Colorado State. I actually didn't realize that, so I'm learning something new myself today. Didn't play very much, graded out pretty well in his limited minutes, but going from Colorado State to Colorado. So it's something I don't know. I'd have to check with some of my guys. I don't know if that's something that's all that common in CU history. So we'll have to see there. And then the last one on the incoming side, we got Jaquil Smith. Looking at 5'11", 171, played in, 7 games for Sacramento State. Only 89 total snaps, but graded super well. As a freshman, 80.7 overall, 78.3 as a pass threat, 76.2 as a runner, and then a little bit below decent as a run blocker, but only had 6 snaps there. So in a freshman season, I think that's really great. Somebody that you hope is going to get better each season, and just having that continuity with Coach Marion and the system, I think is going to be super helpful for him as well. Moving on down the list. Again, want to make sure I note this each time, but if you feel that the running backs got worse, if you feel they got better, please do tell me in the comments. It's super helpful for us just understanding how you guys feel and making sure that we have a grasp on the overall CU community. Next on the list, we've got our wide receiver room. On the out, we've got a guy that was projected to be a star here at CU if he had stayed, but ultimately leaves to head to Arizona State. Omarion Miller, 6'2", 210, graded as a 95 on both 247 and on 3. And then wide receiver, running back, I project him more as a wide receiver, truthfully, as opposed to a running back, but we'll see how Baylor uses him. Draylen Miller, 6'1", 200 pounds, 88 on both platforms. Cam Michael as well. Again, I think just as a wide receiver, it's how he started his career, but with more put at running back for some of the just needed to get some touches. 6'1", 195, just more of an athlete. 86 per 247 and then 87 on 3. Terrell Timmons as well, 6'2", 185, head into Memphis with Corey Phillips and the running back Dallin Hayden. Not ranked on 247, but at 85 per on 3. And then Isaiah Harge, wide receiver, cornerback, two-way player, heading to Tennessee. 5'10", 165, 84 on 3, not ranked on 247. On the inverse, we've got DeAndre Moore Jr. coming in from Texas, 6 foot, 192, 94 on both platforms as a grade there. So very similar to Omarion Miller, which is cool to see. Danny Scudero coming in from San Jose State, 5'9", 174. I didn't actually personally realize he was 5'9", but an absolute ball player. 87. This is the biggest discrepancy that we've seen so far. So 87 per 247, but a 90 per on 3. So you average those out, similar to Draylen Miller, I guess, maybe that 88, 89-ish range. And then Ernest Campbell as well, 5'9", 145, super lean, but super great in the open field. 87 per 247 and then 88 per on 3. A little bit better than Cam Michael in that range. And then Cam Perry, also 5'9", 168, 86 and 87. So 4 incoming guys that all are ranked really high. We'll get into some of the numbers on the PFF side of things, but Buffs lose some high-end talent in the wide receiver room, and then a couple of guys who hadn't really played as much and are looking for more of a new opportunity elsewhere. Looking at the actual 247 PFF grades here, let me go back and share that screen. So when we look, let's do the departures first. I've got a lot of tabs open, as you can imagine. Let's see here. We're going to start with Omarion Miller. So Omarion Miller, as we mentioned, heading over to ASU, staying in conference, 6'2", 210. Starters came off the bench in the Utah game and a couple other games due to some kind of off-the-field issues, but graded out really well. Was one of CU's, if not CU's, best receiver last season at a 67.9 overall. Great hands, athletic, can go up over the top and quote unquote moss guys when he needs to. 71.5 is a pass threat, not much of a blocker. If you watch the film, he tends to just not really play well with his hands on some of those plays where he's not getting the ball. And, it's a tough loss. I think when we see some of the grades for DeAndre Moore, we'll feel a little bit better about it. But in his 3 seasons at Colorado, didn't play due to some injury and just being a freshman early on, but has just consistently graded super well. Is a great ball player. He's an absolute animal. Out on the outside. So it'd be interesting to see how he performs at ASU. I think Cutter Boley is the quarterback over there now. And I know they got some guys waiting in the wings too. So we'll see how he grades out, with not being in Colorado anymore. Next guy on the list, also heading in conference, Draylon Miller, teaming up with DJ Lagway. So going to be super interesting to see how he performs and how they use him. Do they use him in that Deebo Samuel role where he's kind of got a little bit of running back instinct in him, but mostly as a receiver? Played in that slot role a little bit. They don't really count him for the running back reps. Some starting minutes, some rotational minutes as well. Tough season for Draylon. I think coming out of his freshman season, you were really expecting him to take off. He had that great connection with Shador and was at his pro day, and everyone's like, wow, Draylon is that guy. But comes in early and has a couple of drops early on and kind of sees his playing time fluctuate a little bit. Played super well against BYU, but the rest of the season just super inconsistent. Wasn't really able to get in a good headspace on offense. So dips off pretty significantly from his freshman season. I got to move this mic because I can't. There we go. Now I can actually see the snap counts. Overall, I think he just needed a change of scenery and just it'll be interesting to see how they use him. Wish him the best. And I think we got some guys that can fill that slot role pretty well. Moving on down the list, we've got Cam Michael. Only played in 4 games. Again, I think they threw him at running back just because they felt a need to get him on the field after having an injury. And he was really highly rated coming out of high school as an athlete. But 66.8 overall, 56.9 as a pass threat, 69.8 as a runner. He had a couple of good runs. I know in the Utah game he had started and had a little bit of difficulty early on, but I think he broke one late that went for one of the longer runs on the CU season. This is his only season that he played. Again, I think he broke his leg his freshman year. So heading over to Georgia Southern, if I remember, it came out today. So wishing the best of luck for him. And I'm hoping that he gets an opportunity to really shine. And again, another guy that I'm just interested, are they going to put him at running back? Are they going to keep him at receiver? Where does he end up going? But he's got a lot of talent. So we'll see how Cam Michael ends up once we get into the season. Next on the list, Terrell Timmons heading over to Memphis with a couple other CU guys. Played in 4 games this season, graded out really well, actually. In his limited action early on, played super well against Wyoming and in the TCU game as well. Senior, sure hands, fast guy, straight line speed, but just couldn't really break the rotation in that wide receiver room. So limited action, 70.8 as a pass threat, not much of a blocker. Played 2 seasons at NC State in limited action before coming to CU. Average to below average in terms of grading, and then didn't play much last season or this season. So another guy that new opportunity, new university. We hope that he gets a shot to really show what he's made of, but actually graded out pretty well this season in terms of the Buffs wide receiver room. And then the last guy on the list, going over to Tennessee to team up with a former Buff legend, Ryan Staub. I'm going to be sounding like I'm, repeating myself a lot here, but another guy that's going to be really interesting to see how they use him. Earned the 2-way jersey at Colorado, wide receiver, cornerback, played a little cornerback. I'm putting on his receiver reps here because he played a little bit more at receiver, graded below average technically. And for comparison's sake, PFF grades a 60 is average. So a 60 is your barometer. Above that is above average. Below 60 is below average. Played actually, more minutes than he did last season. Graded out better last season overall in limited action, but 53.5 as an offensive threat, and then 56.2 as a pass threat. But interesting to see where Harge, ends up in the Tennessee rotation. I personally thought he would maybe go down a level, but looks like he wants to team up with Stabby again, and we'll just see how he is utilized in the Tennessee scheme. On the inverse, we have guys coming in. We've got, what I refer to as the big fish coming in on the other side. DeAndre Moore Jr. coming in from Texas, 6'1", 192. Has been a really reliable and consistent threat for Texas's offense over his couple years in Austin. 416 snaps, 71.7 overall. I think that would have been one of, if not the best overall PFF grades on CU's roster last season on offense. Had some great games against lower competition like Sam Houston, and didn't play as well later on in the year against like a Texas A&M, but overall just very consistent, a great athlete, great player, great hands, great in open space as well. Has a little bit of slot reps, some, outside as well. 73.3 as a pass threat, and then 52.6 as a run blocker. But got better every season. Played more last season than he did the year before, but graded out better overall in his third season at Texas. So interesting to see how he performs in Boulder, and I think coming from talent level like SEC down to the Big 12, it'd be interesting to see his grades in comparison to Omarion's, and if he can really fill that wide receiver one spot. Danny Scudero, 5'9", 174, Blenikoff semifinalist. So graded super well over at San Jose State as a starter. A little bit of that slot hybrid on the outside type of receiver, 74.3 overall, 75.0 as a pass threat, just around average as a run blocker. But really good grades for him. Graded even better when he was at Sacramento. I don't think that's Sac State. I think that's just Sacramento. I'd have to double check. But 80.2 overall in his prior season, and then 79.4 as a pass threat. So really good grades, as coming in as the second highest ranked receiver per 247 and on 3 as well. Guy coming from Sac State. Let me double check that. Okay, so it does say Sacramento. Okay, so Danny Scudero was at Sac State before that. Just want to make sure I had that correct. Graded really well at Sac State. Again, the frame might make you bat your eyes a little bit. 5'9", 145, but graded out exceptionally well. It understands the go-go, great in space, great hands, super shifty. Track athlete, former track athlete. I don't know if he's going to run at CU, but I know, Dylan Edwards did that time. So we'll see if Ernest does as well. 85.6 overall as an offensive threat, 90.1 as a pass threat. Had a great game against Portland as a starter, 90.7. That's really great. But against East Washington had his, arguably worst game of the season. But 390 snaps in his freshman season. So super great to see. The production is there, and I'm curious to see how he ends up in the Big 12 and on this revamped Colorado offense. And then the last guy in the wide receiver room that was brought in, Cam Perry, also 5'9", 154, mostly a starter at his prior stop at Miami of Ohio. Played 2 seasons at Indiana as well, but graded super well last season, 77.3 overall and 77.3 as a pass threat. Surprisingly well as a run blocker, but actually, pretty good run block. Snaps and grades. So could be, a guy that comes in and understands the value of blocking for his teammates, which we know is very important to Coach Marion. Didn't play too much or grade all that well in his prior 3 seasons, but really seems to have broken out last year. And we'll see how he does on the Buffs as well. Moving on through, this is a fun one here. A lot to talk about with this one. Tight end room. You can tell my sarcasm. Ins and outs. Nobody lost from the room. We did lose Brady Kopetz for a minute there, but came back on scholarship, so I didn't put him on here. But we did bring in Fisher Clements, still figuring that out. 6'7", 265, graded as 85 on both platforms. Guy came in from Northern Colorado. Let me just go ahead, because there's not a whole lot to see here on this graphic. Just go ahead and share my screen. We'll pull up. Oh, now I'm getting all sorts of. This This is what happens when you have a million tabs open with everybody's PFF grades. You got to figure out where everybody is. Yeah, but came in from Northern Colorado. I'm actually not sure that I opened Fisher Clemens's. Let's go ahead and I don't think we'll get there. We'll get there. Let me go ahead and pull him up. Sorry for that delay there. We will get him pulled up because I don't think that I actually saved his. There we go. Cool. All right. Sharing our screen now. There he is. Sorry about that. Sorry about the delay. It took me a second. Fisher Clemens, 6'7", 265, played in a good amount of games in some starting and spot minutes for Northern Colorado. Didn't grade all that well, 42.7, overall, and 58.6 as a run blocker. Big size. Didn't grade all that well at Northern Colorado, but definitely a development piece and somebody that will come in and make the room better and could be a red zone threat. Can't really teach size. So nice little addition to the tight end room, and we'll see how he complements some of the guys that are also there as well. All right, moving on to one of the more talked about position groups in this cycle. We've got the O-line room. Obviously, the big news of the offseason was Jordan Seaton choosing to depart, 6'5", 295, one of the highest graded recruits in CU history. In the portal as a 98 by both On3 and 247. So really highly graded, and Buffs are, losing a lot of talent there. We have some debates as to whether or not it's going to fit the scheme and some of the run blocking stuff. We'll get into it. But we also have Cardé Smith, 6'6", 295, 86 by 247, 87 by On3, was a 4-star coming out of high school. Rock Tyler Brown came over with Coach Prime as well from Jackson State, 6'3", 325. That number, I might want to double check that one. 85 by 247 and 86 by On3. And then Cooper Lovelace, 6'5", 315, not ranked by 247, but at 85 by On3. And then Walker Anderson as well, 6'5", 290, not ranked by either platform. Coming in, however, we've got a lot of guys that have come in on this offensive line. Some will be tackles, some will be guards, some will be centers. I didn't list it specifically, but Javen Richardson, 6'6", 315, 87 overall by both 247 and On3. Taj White, 6'5", 308, 87 by 247, but 89 on On3. Leon Bell, 6'8", 300, 87 and 88 respectively by those two platforms. Bo Hughley, not entirely sure yet. 6'6", 295, 87, 88. Javon McFadden, Jordan Seaton's cousin, interestingly enough. We'll get into that again on the live show later this week. 6'4", 295, 86 overall on 247, 88 on 3. Sean Kinney, center coming from Lafayette College, 6'2", 290, 86, 87. And then Demetrius Hunter, 6'2", 318, 86 on both platforms. And Jose Soto coming in from Sac State, 6'3", 312, 84, 86, rounding out the guys coming in. Let's go ahead and just breeze through some of these. We'll get the actual numbers in here. It's a good learning lesson for me. I got to organize these a little bit better. Okay, Jordan Seaton coming in first. Awesome. 6'5". He's listed at 330. Definitely dropped a bunch of weight in the Swayze regimen. Incredible pass blocking numbers, 65.8 overall. Not a great run blocking number. That's something that is going to be interesting to see how he develops wherever he ends up. But as some people have alluded to, maybe not the best scheme or best fit for the go-go scheme, which is very run heavy, run dependent. And so will be interesting if he ends up in just a primarily pass heavy offense, maybe an LSU that's got a lot of weapons around the outside. Graded super well in both of his 2 years at Boulder. But again, that run blocking number is something that I think is going to need to be worked on for him. So we'll see how he develops. We'll see how he ends up outside of Boulder. We wish him well. Was the Buffs anchor left tackle, quote unquote, the franchise before. So, moving down the list, we've got Cardé Smith heading to Memphis, 6'5", 300. Played only special team grades or special team snaps, rather, for the Buffs. 62.6 overall on special teams. I don't have a whole lot to say there. He was ranked as a 4-star coming out of high school. Somebody that I was hoping was going to get an opportunity this season, but only got some special team snaps. So we'll see if he gets a chance with Corey Phillips in Memphis. Again, if you're seeing a theme here, a lot of guys going to Memphis following Corey Phillips, so he must have had some good relationships with some of these guys that he had recruited. Next on the list, we got Tyler Brown heading over to JMU. 6'3", 325, as we mentioned, only played in one game, was actually, I think, the Buffs' second highest graded player in those 5 snaps as a 72.4 overall. I believe he got injured, if I remember correctly, but played a couple of seasons, actually a bunch of seasons prior to this. Was at Jackson State, was at Louisiana Lafayette. Some higher snap counts and some lower snap counts, but graded above average overall, really well when he was at Jackson State in pass block. Will be interesting to see what Billy Napier does with him at James Madison. It was cool seeing his visit photos. He seems super happy there, and I hope they get a chance to utilize him with the Dukes. Next on the list, we got Cooper Lovelace. He did not play this season. For some reason, I can't actually find. I know he played prior years at Northwestern and USC, but it does not actually show that on here. So we're just going to move on from him. And then Walker Anderson as well, same deal. He played at UCLA prior to the Buffs, but never actually saw the field. Same with Colorado. So guy that we're going to just move on from and wish that he's the best. And he's listed as a 0 height. So that's interesting. Coming in on the other side, we've got Javen Richardson coming in from Missouri. Played in a couple of games for Missouri last season, 61.4 overall, 28.9 in pass block, which is interesting because, I guess in the 2 grades, he had more pass blocking snaps. He did not play all that well. And against UMass, which is a little bit concerning to grade as 11.5 in pass blocking. But we'll see how it translates. We'll see how it works out for him in less minutes at Missouri the year prior. 68.2 overall, but had a 62.6 in pass block and a 78.0 in run block. 6'6", 313, listed as a tackle, got great size. We'll see if he plays left or right side of the line. Might compete with Larry Johnson or take the open left tackle spot. So we'll see there. Next on the list, we got Taj White, also a tackle, 6'5", 308. We've got a 65.6 overall in 755 total snaps, 54.0 as a pass blocker, but 70.6 as a run blocker. So this is a guy that he played a lot of right tackle, of course, at Rutgers, but maybe we try to flip him over to the left side to take that spot. Got really great run blocking prowess in his 2 prior years at Rutgers, played increasingly more each season. But again, consistently a good run blocker at a 64.9 overall, got better each season, and just a consistent grade at run blocker or as a run blocker. So will be really interesting to see where he ends up on the line. Next on the list, newer addition to the Buffs. We will talk about some of these guys that we haven't talked about on the live. We'll get to it as the week goes on. We'll do a full breakdown of who they are and what you can expect, but great size, 6'8", 330. I've seen 330, I've seen 300, so we'll have to see on that. Started for Cal this season, a good amount, 62.0 overall in 583 total snaps, 65.8 as a pass blocker, and then 60.1 as a run blocker. Played really well against Texas Southern, had a great game there, and a 90.5 in run block, but not as well against Duke. So we'll see how he fares against some of the better competition in the Big 12. Played at Mississippi State prior to Cal. Didn't play a whole lot, probably why he transitioned over. But I'm pretty sure he's a grad transfer. So we'll see if and how much minutes he gets for the Buffs. Again, another right tackle that we'll see if he ends up playing the other side. But Buffs have brought in a couple of experienced right tackles in this cycle. One that surprised a lot of people coming in from Georgia, Bo. Again, I thought it was Hughley, but I've heard Hughley, so we'll see how this actually comes out. I need some people to just, maybe Mark Johnson will do like a interview with some of these guys and confirm it for me. But 6'7", 295, played both right and left tackle for Georgia. Graded right about the average, 61.0 overall, 70.7 as a pass blocker in the SEC is really good to see. So that's awesome. Had some good, even splits between pass block and run block. Right around the average on run block, but we'll see how he ends up faring out. Could be your new starting left tackle, considering he has some reps there, and actually graded really well against Kentucky at left tackle as a 80.6 overall in pass block. In his 2 seasons prior, he was a 71.1. Again, limited minutes here, as you can see on the left side, but graded rather well in those limited minutes. And we'll see, if he ends up being that starting left tackle, if he gets consistently good grades, or just how he fares in the Big 12 as opposed to the SEC. Next on the list, we got Javon McFadden. This is a really interesting one. 4-star coming out of high school. As many people know, Jordan Seaton's cousin. Played 1 game for Ohio State as a 57.0 overall and 15 total snaps at right guard. 73.9 as pass blocker. I've seen a couple of clips of him. He looks like he's athletic and agile on his feet. We'll see if he stays as a guard or maybe moves outside to the tackle with some of that wider weight. But yeah, an interesting one. We'll talk about that whole relationship on the live show, but just wanted to make sure I showed you the grades here for Javon McFadden. Next guy, we got center Sean Kinney coming in from Lafayette College, 6'2", 305, high character guy, graded really well for Lafayette College, started every game at center, 796 total snaps, even split between run and pass block, 72.2 overall on offense, 81.5, very consistent in his pass blocking, which is great to see, and then 68.5, so good amount above average as a run blocker as well, and only 2 penalties, which is really good to see as well. In his season prior, he played similar amount of snaps, but graded a little bit worse, had a 60.0 overall, and then 65.5 as a pass blocker. So I'm not sure where that pass grade comes in, but maybe we'll see him in a sneaky package. We'll compete for minutes with Demetrius Hunter, who we'll get to next at the center position, but a guy that's got a wrestling background and could definitely compete for a starting spot on that offensive line. Next on the list, we have Demetrius Hunter, as I just mentioned, Demetrius Pancake Hunter, as his nickname alludes to. 6'2", 310 coming in from Houston. Started every game for Houston, which was a very run option heavy offense, QB option heavy offense. 811 total snaps, graded right around the average in total, but there's a little bit of fluctuation here, which is interesting, right? So didn't grade as well against Colorado, which is surprising because we did not have a great game against Houston, but got better as the season went on, right? So Baylor 82.9, 82.7 against Arizona. So progressively, got more into it as the season wore on, and it brings a lot of experience. 8 penalties, which is a little bit concerning, but has been just kind of consistent for Houston. Played 730 snaps last season as well, and then a 61.4 overall. And 61.2 in run block. So we'll see who ends up between him and Sean, or maybe Yaya getting that starting center position for the Buffs. And then last guy on the list, Jose Soto, coming over from Sacramento State, 6'3", 312. Elite pass blocking numbers, which is super cool. Had a couple of games where he did not grade very well. I'm not sure what was going on there. Played mostly right guard, was a starter for most of the season. I've never actually seen a 0 in pass block, so I don't know what happened there. I'd have to dive into that game more specifically. But 66.1 overall, 59.2 as a pass blocker, and then 65.8 as a run blocker in roughly 700 snaps. Got a little bit better from his first season at Sac State at a 55.9. Again, very low, which is really interesting to see in his limited action, as a pass blocker. But some of these games, Cal Poly, which is great, and some of these other ones, Northern Colorado, Eastern Washington, he had really great grades. So I'm not entirely sure how it skews so heavily down or what happened here, but we'll have to dive into the film on that one. But Jose Soto coming over from Sac State to round out the offensive line group. All right. Thank you guys for sticking with me. I'm going to take a quick pause here. Just make sure that we essentially want to check in with you to make sure that you are getting your thoughts into the comments, right? So I've pulled up a lot of numbers, a lot of grades here, talked about, where they're expected to be in the depth chart, but I want to hear from you. So tell me, based on quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, how are you feeling about whether or not these rooms got better, got worse? Give me your honest feedback. Be brutally honest, and as we get into the defense here, we'll want to see your thoughts as well.